Welcome to our channel. Get ready for a collection of incredible stories that will send shivers down your spine. If you love mystery and horror, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more thrilling content. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the stories. Suicidal thoughts sometimes torment many of us. Some still decide to leave in person, someone silently, someone leaves a suicide note. Each of these people has their own reasons for doing so, not always realizing that it is wrong. There is always help, someone will listen. Just don't give up, because suicide is not the way out. I'm writing these lines for a reason. I want to tell you my story, how I faced such a terrible thing, and what made me love life. I just graduated from college. The desire to go somewhere else was not, so I decided to just find a normal job. I'm a very sensitive person, a little too sensitive. I just cry in the corner. I was a wimp. And so, my adult life did not really start. I found a normal job, but the team was so bad. I won't go into the details of where and how I worked, it's not so important for the story, I'll just say that those were hard times. I tried to tell my parents everything, and they explained to me, who was still a fool at that time, still very green and not knowing anything about real life, that at almost every second workplace you can come across such things. I was still playing youthful maximalism, from which I often argued with my parents on this topic, and then did not talk to them for weeks. That's how I walked about a month, downcast and always with a sad face, remembering his former days of gone young freedom. At times I thought about suicide, but somehow quickly dismissed such thoughts. Until I found one site called Dreams of Fallen Angels. Someone threw me a link in a popular social network, directly in personal messages, which is not surprising, because the page then I was very specific for a difficult period of my life. The site itself was a kind of forum where all the lost people gathered. All in dark colors, with psychedelic art, with a lot of different discussions. There was a lot of activity, with new posts appearing almost every second. People were talking about different topics, but the essence was the same: death. There were dialogues about different ways of suicide, from the most banal to the most sophisticated. Everyone shared his experience and gave advice for certain situations. By the way, the name Dreams of Fallen Angels was not given for nothing. In one discussion it was said that under reveries means the world where fallen angels suicidal. Some kind of paradise, where beautiful maidens in robes meet, lead round dances, and sing sweetly. There you are always welcome, caressed and pampered. There is always sunshine, a beautiful garden and delicious food. A fabulous and beautiful place, the perfect reward after a hard life on this earth. Naturally, I got interested in it. At first I just read the forums, sometimes wrote something and shared my opinions on some things. Over time I joined there with my head, because I found support there. I even found a couple of friends, exchanged contacts with them, and you can say that we practically communicated live. Naturally, we talked about the rotten society, shared some moments of life, death and other dark topics. When we got so close, we sometimes discussed each other's interests, shared our impressions of some movie or game, and talked about our favorite musicians. I was very happy that I was able to finally find some friends. We also had a common chat on social network, where we also talked peacefully. At that time I even became more lively, more cheerful, and easier to deal with the hardships of adulthood. Many people noticed such a change in me, wondering if I had found a daughter-in-law. In response, I said that I simply found interesting acquaintances on the internet, omitting, of course, the details of where I found them. Did my life get better? A little. At least, a lot less thinking about my own demise. And yet, after one moment, I finally gave up. There was an unpleasant incident at work. I argued with one of my colleagues, and quite strongly, which led to a fight. We were separated by the whole team, even the bosses. In fact, both of us were guilty, but I am a very emotional person and was the first to start the fight. Naturally, I was fired after that. My parents reprimanded me then, which led to a quarrel at home. I couldn't withstand all this onslaught and went to my room and closed myself there. I told my friends about all that happened, mentioning my strong desire to die. They supported me. We decided on a group suicide. Every user of the website Dreams of Fallen Angels is booked to go to Eden. You just have to believe that suicide is not a sin, but a good thing when the Lord God has played a cruel joke on you. Everyone who is cornered has a chance for a beautiful life in a world where they can accept and understand you. Many more of these motivational phrases on the site, pushing people to die. Sounds like nonsense to me now, but back then. Then I found the strength to do it. At an opportune moment, when my parents weren't home, I connected via video link to my friends. They were much younger than me, but I didn't pay much attention to that. I just wanted to get it over with as soon as possible. We talked for a while, wished each other well and got down to business. The only method we chose was a deep cut on the wrists. First the left hand. Then the right hand with pain. I put my hands in front of me. Streams of blood ran down my arm, my eyes blurred. Slowly my eyelids closed. And darkness. Not in Eden, but in hell itself. A world in purple colors, where darkness and pain reigned, where we could hear the screams of people, the smell of blood and flesh. The ground was ablaze with fire, and only nasty-looking goat-like creatures moved freely. Tall, shaggy, their clawing made my head crack in half. Wild eyes full of anger shone on their bare skulls. They tortured us, ate us alive and raped us. We were their playthings, we could not die. Time after time we had to endure incredible suffering, dying and being reborn, and it was always like this, there was no end to it. My eyes burned and melted, spreading over my body. My limbs were broken out, my body bent at unknown angles, then kicked like a ball. I was raped many times, my bottom aching badly from the devil's lustful games with their horse tackle. Quartered, boiled inside a grotesque large snake, suffocated in a noose over a precipice into darkness, the torture could have gone on for another eternity until a bright light enveloped me and I woke up in the hospital. I didn't realize what was happening. My parents were next to me. They were saying something, but I couldn't hear them. It had been a long time since I was as happy as I was now, that I was alive, that my parents were with me, that I was breathing fresh air instead of burning fumes. I was saved in time, as well as one of my friends, saved only by the miraculous return of my relatives at the right time. My second friend died, the ambulance did not reach him in time. He was in the hospital for quite a long time, visiting a psychologist as well. I am still in touch with that surviving friend, we told everything that happened together. Did they shut down that site? It's gone, I think the creator deleted his horrible creation. I hope that everyone who is now in a difficult situation got the meaning of my story. You should not go to extremes. When life consists of black stripes, it is better to find help from specialists, from parents, from someone who can help you, rather than to believe in the peculiarity of your living conditions, and then go to a place where you will be tormented for the wrong choice. And that was just one chilling tale, but we're not done yet. Get ready, because the next story might be even more terrifying. Who among us hasn't been a collector? I'm sure everyone has collected lids, chips, or cards at least once. As a child, I loved collecting various stickers. I remember I even had a special album where I collected almost 1,000 different stickers over 5 years. It's a pity that I lost it somewhere. However, a few stickers have survived. They hung on the door to my room. There were a couple of stickers from cartoons and chocolates. The hockey player sticker stood out. It had a lot of history. It was given to me by a classmate in elementary school. I was good friends with all the kids at school, but one day I got into a fight with 2 boys who were a year older than me. One day after school, they came around the corner to beat me up. Luckily for me, my classmate Lyonia was passing by. He stood up for me. Lyonia had been playing hockey since childhood and rarely passed by someone else's misfortune. So he helped me out, and after that we became friends. Later, it was Lyonka who gave me this hockey sticker. I remember that I gave him a return gift. I made a puck and a stick out of plasticine. Now I'm 26, that is, I finished school almost 10 years ago. With Leonia, we stopped communicating after the 5th grade. He transferred to the gymnasium then. Nevertheless, I have fond memories. I got used to stickers a long time ago, so I rarely pay attention to them. Unless I want to get nostalgic once in a while. Yes, I live alone in the apartment I got from my parents. My dad died a few years ago, and my mom moved into a one-bedroom. A 2-room apartment is more important to you, son, my mom told me. You'll get married, have a child, the second room will not be superfluous. But I don't have time to get married yet. I have enough problems without it, but that's not the point. I came home from work one night. It had been a long day. Soon to our work should come to the labor inspection, so everyone was standing on the ears, preparing for the inspection. Not only was I delayed at work for an hour, but the bus broke down on the way home. The marshrutka with my number runs every half an hour, so I had to wait another 30 minutes. On top of that, nobody canceled the lines at the grocery store. All in all, I came home tired. Tired as if I had been carrying sacks of bricks all day. I didn't even want to eat, only to rest. I threw off my shoes and collapsed on the bed. Some vague feeling interrupted the pleasant moments of pleasure. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt uncomfortable. Most importantly, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. The temperature's normal in the apartment, it doesn't blow, the neighbors don't make any noise. You know, it feels like you're in a place you don't like. I had it once, when I was a kid, when my mom took me to visit a friend. I didn't like it there at all. The apartment was gray, the air was stuffy, the interior of the rooms was dreary and depressing. My apartment was not even close to my mom's friend's apartment, but something was obviously wrong here. I involuntarily glanced at the door. At first I didn't notice anything unusual, a couple of scratches, last year's calendar, some peeling paint and stickers. That's when I noticed the hockey sticker. The athlete's eyes had gone completely black. There were 2 dark circles. I shuddered with surprise, but tried to find a reasonable explanation. Perhaps, this defect appeared long ago, but I just didn't pay attention to it. The paint had probably worn off over time, and I hadn't even noticed it. But why do these black circles look like they've been burned out? I racked my brain for a few minutes, but I couldn't think of anything. I was brought out of my musings by a phone call. It was another bank calling again, offering a favorable loan. I put my cell phone away and looked at my watch. The time was approaching nightfall. I decided not to fill my head with speculations about the sticker and began to get ready for bed. The discomfort had lessened, but I couldn't get a good night's sleep that night. The room was stuffy, even though I opened the window. Nasty mosquitoes, as if on someone's tip, decided to kill me. Their squeaks pissed me off all night. Too bad I forgot to buy poison. At work I had a series of new problems waiting for me, and I should have put my discontent away. Everyone was having a hard time, and it was definitely not worth it to pour oil on the fire with a bad mood. I made it through the rest of the day. Tomorrow was the last working day of the week, and that was the only thing that made me happy. I got home surprisingly quickly. I cooked eggs and sausage, ate dinner quickly, and spent the rest of the evening watching TV. I turned around a bit and fell asleep as night fell. I dreamt about hockey. I admired the hockey players' skillful movements on the ice. They were skillfully hitting the puck with their sticks, which flew into one corner or the other. 3 periods passed and the hockey match ended. The spectators from the stands began to applaud the athletes for their bright game. I got up from my seat and clapped too, watching the hockey players. The blue team won, but for some reason I paid attention to the goalie of the red team. The player took off his helmet, and I shuddered with my whole body. The athlete's eyes were surrounded by an incomprehensible black veil. There were a lot of spectators in the arena, but I was sure that this hockey player was looking at me. He stood nonchalantly in one place and glared at me. I don't know how long this staring game lasted, but suddenly I heard an unintelligible whisper. Yes, yes, in a noisy arena among dozens of people in an endless stream of noise and shouts, I heard someone whispering. Probably, this quiet voice was in my head, because there were 4 guys standing next to me, who didn't pay any attention to me at all and were watching what was happening on the ice. I tried to make out something from the words I heard, but I didn't understand anything. Some kind of gibberish. Eventually, the whispers seemed to start cutting me from the inside and I got a headache. I clutched my head and fell to my knees, and then woke up abruptly in my bed. My voice was gone and the room was silent. Only outside the window could be heard the occasional car passing by. I sighed heavily and stared at the ceiling. This was the second night I couldn't sleep. The dream made me remember the hockey sticker again. I got out of bed and walked to the door, turning on the light. On the sticker was a hockey player, exactly like the one in my dream. Instead of eyes, it was still the same 2 black circles. I ripped the sticker off, then tore it into several pieces and threw it in a bucket. Apparently, I think about unnecessary things too much, and that's why I have nightmares. There was one oddity I couldn't deny: the dark circles remained on the door even after I peeled the sticker off. What was so mystical? The circles didn't look like paint. It was more like burning. The real problem was that I had not personally done any such manipulation on the door. I was trying to find an explanation for this yesterday when I first noticed the oddity of the sticker. I felt uneasy. I don't believe in all the spirits, ghosts, and other heresy, but the fact that there were strange circles on the door couldn't be denied. So I made myself some chamomile tea and went to bed at about 4 in the morning. I woke up a couple hours later and was even late for work because of the bad sleep. My boss didn't notice it, so I managed to avoid unnecessary nervousness. The details of the working day can be omitted, for the worst began the coming night. I had planned to sleep and regain my strength at least on the weekend, but it was not to be. I went to bed early, and even slept well for a few hours, but a strange rustling noise made me wake up. I don't know if it's a gift or a curse to wake up to every sound. The first thing I did was look at the clock, 2:47. Then I looked out the window and was horrified. There was a man standing in front of my bed. But even here I had doubts that it was really a man. Then who or what is it? How had the stranger gotten into my apartment? The moonlight and the light from the street helped me to get a glimpse of the night guest. It appeared to be a man in hockey gear. I couldn't see his face, it was hidden by a hockey goalie's mask. For a second I thought I was in a bad dream again. I pinched myself. It hurt, and the stranger wasn't going anywhere. I closed my eyes and opened them again. The result was similar to the previous one, but the night guest came one step closer to me. Then I couldn't stand it and jumped half a meter on the bed and flew out of my room. In a few moments I reached the bathroom and locked the door. Now I was faced with another problem: I was in total darkness. I was ready to cry at this hopeless situation, but suddenly I remembered about the flashlight. A flashlight. I was cleaning the siphon in the bathroom a week ago, and I used the flashlight. I had left it on the washing machine and still couldn't get it into the room and put it back in its proper place in the closet. I immediately thanked myself for my laziness and reached for the flashlight by feel. Let there be light. I thought happily as I pressed the button to turn on the flashlight. Now I prayed that the battery wouldn't die and leave me in the dark. I pointed the flashlight at the door and felt my heart pounding alarmingly. It felt like I had run several kilometers without a break. However, the worst was ahead. I was horrified to see the lock on the door turn counterclockwise. It was clear that the night guest had decided to get me. I gripped the handle and the lock with all my might to keep the stranger out of the bathtub. Along with that, I held the flashlight as well. It was the scariest thing for me to be left in total darkness alone with this hockey player. I don't know how long this battle for the bathtub went on, but at one point the doorknob fell off, refusing to participate in this battle with the otherworldly. This was not without consequence for me, as I lunged for the door and clawed at the damn handle. The fact that it came off caused me to fly backwards, hitting the back of my head on the tub. Before I blacked out, I saw the door open. I woke up in the morning, lying in an unnatural position on the cold tile in a small pool of blood. I grabbed the back of my head and cried out in pain. I was banged up, but I was glad I was alive. I carefully peeked out from behind the door. There was no one in the apartment, and the bright sunlight and morning light made it safe for me. I decided to treat the wound and stepped out into the hallway, heading for the first aid kit. I noticed the small indentations and cuts in the linoleum. It felt like they had been left here by someone who had been skating. At least now I had no doubt that the night visitor was real. Really, who he was, and what he wanted, remained a mystery. I took a short pause and tried to think it over and put the facts together. I realized that it all started with a sticker. Probably the whole point was not the sticker, but the hockey player who was depicted on it. I realize now that I ripped it off at a very bad time. Thank goodness I didn't take the trash outside, for there was hardly any. Picking up the sticker piece by piece was not easy, but I managed. At least that way I got to know the name of the hockey player. Let's call him Alexander. It's great that we live in the digital age, and if not everything, then a lot can be found on the internet. So I was able to quickly gather information about the hockey player on the sticker. His sports career turned out to be an eventful one. Since childhood he was engaged in hockey, and at the age of 20 he already participated in competitions on an international scale. He had to play with various countries: Finland, Canada, Switzerland, and Japan. Victories were not always, but Alexander was not discouraged, and each game gave him practical experience. True, in one of the matches he received a serious truth, which put a cross on his further participation in hockey games. What shocked me more was that one source reported that he died a week ago. No cause was given though. This puzzled me. Alexander was only 41 years old. At that age all of life is ahead of him. At least the hockey player's death explained the events that happened a few days earlier. Now I had no doubt that the night visitor was Alexander, or rather his ghost. It would be hard not to believe in otherworldly forces after such a thing. I also guessed that the sticker and the black circles on it were some kind of foreshadowing before all this commotion. I couldn't figure out what the ghost wanted from me. I decided to dig deeper and found Alexander's page on social networks. It's an unremarkable account. There are a few photos, including some of him in hockey gear. A couple of reposts from sports communities, and under the most recent entry about hockey, there were a few comments like "Rest in peace, my friend," and "Sleep well, Sonia." There are no former athletes. At least it became clear that the news about the hockey player's death was true and not someone's evil joke or fake. Lastly, I checked Alexander's friends list. I even found his mom on there. I thought she might be able to help me somehow, so I wrote to her. I introduced myself as Alexander's buddy and decided to ask her a little bit about him. That's when details came up that I didn't know about. It turns out that Alexander was a really successful hockey player, as I had read earlier. However, then a black streak in life as if decided to strangle the man. A sports injury became the starting point. After it came other health and life problems, but the final verdict was oncology. Yeah, that happens too. A person spent his whole life dealing with his body, watching his health, and fate gives him such a terrible verdict. A topic that can be pondered forever. According to the woman, before his death Alexander was carried in this direction, and through terrible pain he wrote several dozen pages of his thoughts on this issue. The truth is that another thing pissed him off the most, namely that people only see the tip of the iceberg called success. After the injury, he was forgotten pretty quickly by both coaches and referees, as well as his teammates. It's a cruel reality. Today you're in a blaze of glory, your photo and name on collector stickers, and tomorrow you're waste material. Before his death, no one visited the hockey player or cared about his condition, and only his mother became the person who saw him off to the end, giving him the last rays of kindness and love. Only later did the woman receive condolences from several people, and Alexander was honored with sympathetic comments on social media from 3 of his most loyal friends after the funeral. I felt very sorry for Alexander and his mom after this story. I was ready to sink into depression myself from such injustice, but the woman asked me to go to church and put a candle for the peace of her son. It seems to me that my Sashenka will not calm down, explained the mother of the hockey player. We should put a candle for him and remember something good about him, then he will leave our world with a calm soul. I initially thought about telling the woman about the strange events in my life over the past few days, but I didn't. I didn't want to seem crazy, and I didn't want to just push something that hurt. I'm not a big believer, but I decided to follow the woman's advice. Went to church, put a candle for the hockey player and mentally thanked for the pleasant connection with the past. I didn't want to spend another night at home, so I decided to rent a room in an inexpensive hotel. It was close to 11 p.m. when I checked in and took a shower. I expected new surprises that night, but to my surprise everything went as favorably as possible. I heard no strange noises, no ghost came to me again, the stuffiness and insects did not disturb my sleep. I remained in my room until 12 o'clock in the afternoon, when the maid came and asked me to move out. I reluctantly made my way to my apartment. When I entered the apartment, I immediately noticed the linoleum. The skate blade marks were absent, as if they had never been there. The knob on the door was also as good as new, as if I'd never pulled it off. A miracle, indeed. I walked into the kitchen and flinched when I noticed the note on the table. It read, "Thank you for praying for me. I'm sorry for my harassment. I won't bother you again. Farewell. Sincerely, Alexander." I crumpled the paper and threw it in the bucket. I felt calm in my soul, but I decided to get rid of the note to forget all the nightmare of the previous days. Finally, I walked into the room and saw that only chipped paint remained in place of the sticker and the dark circles were gone. Exhaling, I laid down on the couch, trying not to think about anything. About an hour after I got home, I went about my business and prepared for tomorrow's workday. I was comfortable in my personal apartment again, and I could go back to the normal rhythm of life. I still had some concerns, but they were in vain. The night passed quietly and without incident. The next one too. A month later I almost never remembered the night meeting with the hockey player, but I learned a little lesson from this story. Now I try to be more attentive to other people's problems, because you never know how dire the consequences of indifference to the troubles of others can be. After all, already in my childhood Lyonia showed and proved to me that it is worth being kinder and more attentive to people. Now I will definitely not forget it, and I advise others to remember such simple truths. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.